I found it. The search wasn't working. I don't know why. Probably
Okay, we all set?
user.
All righty. Welcome, everyone. We will call the February 17th Genoa Charter Township Board of Trustees meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Please rise and join me in the invocation. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us all here safely tonight and ask that your divine wisdom guide our discussions and decisions moving forward. Many among us have friends, family, and neighbors that are in need of your light and caring, so we ask that you look over all of those facing challenges. Bless this meeting and all who are present as we strive to honor you with our actions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Hovarder.
Here.
Susie.
Here.
Deaton here. Spicher.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Ryber.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Okay. And with that, I will open the call to the public at 6:33 p.m.
Tracy Cardiac. Hello.
Hello.
I would like to address the issue of the potential of a raise being issued to Ms. Van Marter. When you restored the clerk's salary to acknowledge the fact that the position was once again full-time instead of the part-time role the previous clerk held, I stood behind you 100%. It was the right thing to do and it needed to be done. I am 100% opposed to this proposed raise. In 2011, Public Act 152, known as the hard cap law, created a new law that limits the amount that public employers pay toward employee medical benefits beginning January 1st, 2012. The law was created because then Governor Rick Snyder deemed it fiscally irresponsible and not being a good fiduciary of the public's money to use taxpayer dollars to cover the cost of medical insurance for public employees. As a public school teacher myself, that means out of my salary, which is less than half of Miss Van Marter's, even with my master's degree and many more years doing my job than the 3 she has doing hers, each year as health insurance premiums rise, I have to pay more and more out of my paycheck to cover my portion of the insurance premiums because the hard cap law prevents my employer from paying those increases. As part of Miss Van Marter's contract, her annual insurance deductible is paid for by the taxpayers. Guess who pays the annual $10,000 deductible on my insurance policy? Me and my husband, because the hard cap law doesn't let my employer pay for it. When Miss Van Marter was hired in 2022, her salary was $139,000. She has received such handsome raises every year that her current salary of $151,000 represents a 9% increase in 4 short years. And now there's talk of giving her another 5% raise? Are you kidding me? Your constituents have been struggling in this economy, and you're going to spend their money to give someone a raise who already makes more than any other township manager in Livingston County? And unlike Genoa Township, some of those other managers have fire departments and police departments they're responsible for. Do you want to know what my raises have been during that same period? 2.5%. Do you know what the average raise in the United States annually? Roughly 3%. How do you justify giving her yet another raise when the previous board gave her $12,000 over 3 years? Guess what, as a public employee, my annual car allowance is? A big fat $0. Miss Van Marter's annual car allowance, $9,000. If I'm not mistaken, that's also not a common practice amongst townships. Miss Van Marter, in my opinion, is already overcompensated for her position, and a raise is not justified. She should count herself lucky that her position is conveniently exempt from the hard cap law. This is not a commentary on Miss Van Marter's competency. This is a commentary on your responsibility to your constituents and each of yours campaign promise to be good fiduciary of taxpayer funds. Granting this raise is not what it looks like to do either of those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Jeff DeHanens.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Kelly, you're doing a great job. Sorry. I hope that I can stay. I hope that I can stay long enough to listen to the item about the My app, the My Genoa app. I'm still just not convinced that this is for us. Interested in how it's a push versus a pull. I just think there are enough social media platforms we're already engaging in. I just think it's a slippery slope. But I hope that the discussion goes well tonight. Unfortunately, I can only stay an hour, and I hope that number 12 comes up before then. So thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's it, sir.
Is that all? Anybody else wish to address the board? All righty, and with that, we will close the call to the public at 6:37 PM. I would now look, actually, on the consent agenda. We need to remove the minutes, put those into the regular agenda for a couple of corrections. So I would entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
I have a question. There was an item on there, it was a round $500,000 item, and I'm not sure I understood what that was for. And Kelly, you probably know what that is for.
Should we just
Yeah.
move both to the regular agenda then?
We can.
Okay, yeah, let's just do that.
I would make a motion to move items 1 and 2 to the regular agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a support. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. So with that, I would look to approve the amended agenda.
I would like to also make a change. I would like to move item number 14 from items of discussion, out of discussion for approval, and make it an action item for the purpose of amending policy language.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion that.
I'll second.
Okay, as amended? Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carried. Okay, agenda item number 1 is the payment of the bills. Do you know which page that was on, Bill?
So I believe the question was on page 5 of the packet. At the very top of the page, in the check register, you can see a $500,000 check written from the DPW Utility Fund to the Genoa Township General Fund. We have Greg Totera here this evening who can explain that, but I did talk to Greg before the meeting started, and essentially that is a transfer of money from the DPW to Genoa Township to cover the cost of expenses, so salaries and other items. It's basically a reimbursement to the Township General Fund from the DPW fund.
Okay, thank you.
And that's not the full amount that's done annually, that's just a partial of what we needed at the time.
Okay, thank you.
We are very intertwined with both MHOG and GEO, so there is some funds that transfer in and out, and you'll be able to tell by where they are in what account number is affiliated with them in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, I will entertain a motion to pay the bills.
Move approval of the payment of bills for February 17th.
I second.
Support.
I have a motion, I have support. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Bills paid. On to the minutes. I just had three typos, and rather than going through the minutes, The clerk takes care of those, so I will hand her those typos. Page 1, page 4, and page 5, missing period, 1 extra letter. Nothing that changes the minutes critically. Anybody else? Okay.
I had a revision. The minutes reflect Mr. Walker mentioned Attorney Joe Seward is on Planning Commission of White Lake Township and wishes they had a township app when they did their master plan. The sentence implies that I wish they had an app when they did their master plan. I would like the minutes to reflect that Mr. Seward wishes that they, being White Lake Township, had an app when they revised their master plan
Okay.
versus me. That's all.
Not a problem. Just give Patty a minute to...
I didn't take those, sir, so,
Okay.
Janine,
Jeannie's gonna make those
Yeah,
changes.
we can make that changes, so add the word Joe, but the way that I read it is that you mentioned that Joe.
I mentioned that Joe had the app, and then I asked Joe.
It
How do you
says,
feel about the
Mr.
app?
Walker mentioned Attorney Joe Seward, or Seward, is on the Planning Commission of White Lake Township and wishes they had township app when they did their master plan. So we're saying, he wants me to also add, and Joe wishes they had the township app when they did their master plan. So he just wants me to
Yep.
add the word Joe.
Clarify.
Yep,
Yeah,
Okay. Just to clarify.
yep,
Okay.
thank you.
sure.
Anybody else?
Did you hand me that?
Pardon me?
Your little sticky note.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
move approval as amended?
Second?
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussions? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Item number 3 is a presentation by the Huron River Watershed Council. Good evening.
Hello there.
Hello.
I have a presentation that I think Kelly's going to bring up. I'll just set my phone because I know we only have 10 minutes. But good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Andrea Payne. I'm a program manager at the Huron River Watershed Council. I've been with the organization since 2018. I'm in here today to talk a little bit about our organization, about the Huron River Watershed more broadly, and also about the member government services provided to you all as members of the council. We'll give it a second to pull up, but I'll dive in a little bit into an overview of our watershed. So the watershed covers over 7 counties here in southeast Michigan, starting up in Oakland County, making its way through Livingston, Washtenaw, Wayne County. It covers an area of 900 square miles here in southeast Michigan, and our main stem is over 120 miles long. You can go to the next slide. And drains out into Lake Erie near Flat Rock, as you can see. Our watershed is composed of 24 creek sheds, our largest being Mill Creek over in the Chelsea area, but you have 3 here in your township. That includes Hay Creek Shed over in the southwest side, we have Chilson Creek Shed in the middle, and then over on the east side, South Orr Creek Shed. Our watershed also is home to 68 local governments as well as nearly 700,000 residents. So a really important resource here in southeast Michigan. And moving on to the next slide, there's a lot of great reasons why the Huron River is such an asset to our community here in southeast Michigan, both the ecology, a lot of fish and animal species that it's home to, and fantastic recreational opportunities, including our 10 state parks, 10 metro parks, and over 200,000 people annually use the Huron River to fish, paddle, and swim in. And we're also home to the Huron River Water Trail, which is 104 miles of paddleable water, which has over 50 access points for folks to kayak and canoe. And it's also a state and federally designated water trail. In addition, our watershed is home to drinking water for over 150,000 people here in southeast Michigan, as well as the water that drains out into Lake Erie, which provides drinking water for over 11 million people in the Midwest. And then lastly, it's really an economic driver in our community. community. We did a study in 2018 that showed 54 million in annual economic output attributed to the Huron River, as well as over 620 million in added property value, as well as over 150 million in added environmental value. So really important resource. Next slide. Nonetheless, there's a lot of threats to our watershed. Right there in the middle, you'll see a picture of the storm drain, and that's what we consider one of the biggest threats to water quality is that non-point source runoff from stormwater. All of the pollutants covering our roads, sidewalks, lawns, that drains things like nutrients, bacteria, sediments, road salt into the river, which can harm both aquatic health as well as human health. We also have a lot of land use changes, loss of forests and wetlands that can threaten water quality as well. And then we have a number of emerging contaminants that continue to pop up year after year. Everything from 1,4-dioxane, PFAS, microplastics, and then lastly, as you all know, a lot of the aging infrastructure that can exacerbate all these issues. Next slide. So in comes the Huron River Watershed Council. We are a research and education nonprofit based here in Southeast Michigan with a mission to protect and restore the Huron River for healthy and vibrant communities. We're actually celebrating our 60th year this year. There's a little flyer in the packet that I provided about an upcoming celebration that we're having, but we are actually founded as Michigan's first organization to protect rivers. Our funding comes from a mix of grants, donations, fee-for-service work, and also our member government dues, which we really appreciate your continued support for our work. And we're also home to a 16-person staff, but are really fueled by the over 1,000 individual members as well as 600 volunteers that support our mission. And then as you can see here, we really have 4 main programmatic areas: study, protect, restore, and connect. And we have over dozens of projects and programs to address the threats to the river and fulfill our mission. Next slide. Really the bread and butter of our work is our scientific data collection and monitoring. We have 4 different branches of our scientific data collection, but we conduct extensive monitoring across our watershed, both tracking the biology, the chemistry, the flow, as well as the terrestrial ecosystems on the land. And the data collected here really is the foundation of everything we do at our organization. It helps us to track changes in health, the status of the river, as well as its creek sheds. It is also very key in identifying pollutants and evaluating impairments. And then one of the greatest things about our work here is that most of it is volunteer supported, and all of our data is publicly available on our website. Next slide. Our benthic macroinvertebrate monitoring was our first program for monitoring that we launched over 30 years ago. We conduct it 3 times a year in the winter, fall, and spring, and is our most family-friendly event. Next slide. And then we also have a chemistry and flow monitoring program where we track data on a variety of different water quality indicators, everything from phosphorus, a key nutrient that we track across our watershed, as well as sediments, bacteria, dissolved oxygen, conductivity, pH, and more. This program started over 20 years ago, and actually we are conducting monitoring here in Livingston County, which is funded by a group of stormwater permittees called the Livingston Watershed Advisory Group, which is a separate fee-for-service program that we conduct here in Livingston County. But this monitoring takes place annually from April through September, every other week. Next slide. And then we also assess the quality and ecology of our natural areas in the watershed, and this provides vital information for private landowners interested in conserving and protecting their land for water quality. And it also is really vital in supporting the work of our land conservancy partners to help them in prioritizing work for protection. Next slide. We also do work on the state, federal, and local level to advocate for river and water-friendly policies. We played a role over the past year in getting a new inland lake level bill adopted, and then also work very closely on the local level with the over 60 communities in our watershed to support things like master planning and zoning and ordinance development. So that's a resource available to you all as member governments, and I saw in the packet that you're currently working on your master plan, so we'd be happy to take a look from sort of a river and water-friendly perspective. Next slide. And then we also do a lot of boots on the ground construction work to try to promote water quality and return the river to a more natural state. That includes everything from dam removal to stream bank stabilization and habitat restoration. And you can see an example here of a dam removal we conducted in the Dexter area in 2009. Next slide. And then we also do smaller construction projects. So this is everything from municipal green stormwater infrastructure, but also stormwater infrastructure on the residential side in people's front yards, backyards, really to build that network of folks across our watershed. And we work closely with partners across Southeast Michigan to really advance this work as well. And then lastly, another key component of our work at the Huron River Watershed Council is education and outreach. We conduct extensive outreach and education across our watershed to really inspire stewardship at the local level and to connect people to the river. We have an annual STEM education program to get youth out into the river. We have over 1,500 participants on an annual basis teaching kids about ecology, biology, chemistry. And then we also do tabling at a lot of community events to really just connect with residents in the watershed, communicating about river-friendly practices and things that they can do at home to improve water quality. We also develop, as you can see in the middle, a few public education materials. I included an example of our watershed community calendar in the packet materials that I shared with you that includes little tips at the bottom about what you can do. All right, and then just wrapping up here, I want to provide an overview of some of the member government services available to you as a member of the Huron River Watershed Council. So your membership dues help to fuel a lot of those core functions of our organization, including monitoring that I mentioned, but we're also on call if there's water quality concerns that pop up in your township that you want us to take a look at. We can get out there in the river or creeks to investigate that more. In addition, we conduct education beyond what I mentioned. We prepare a quarterly newsletter. We are available to conduct presentations, workshops, educational programs at your request, and also attend community events here in the township. We also are here as a technical resource for you to go to for any water issues that pop up in the township. And then, as I mentioned, supporting things like the development of local ordinances, reviewing your master plan and zoning ordinances. And then I also want to mention that we're available for supporting any grant proposals. So if there's anything that you're interested in pursuing in the environmental or water realm, we would be happy to support that as well as part of your member government services. And then also if there's any development proposals that come in or permits that you would like us to review for consideration as to the impacts on your community's water resources, that's another thing we can support on. And then as I mentioned, representation, we advocate for policy to protect water at the state and federal level, and then also represent the watershed on state and federal committees. One other resource that's available to you as a member government is a seat on the Huron River Watershed Council's Board of Directors. And the Genoa Township seat has remained vacant for many years, and really want to encourage you all to appoint a representative to our council, because that's a key way that you can make your township's voice heard in the work that we do. We were established as a council of governments, and that's still very much a part of the way that we function. And there's some information in your packet about the upcoming the upcoming board meeting, as well as what exactly entails for becoming a representative on our board of directors. And I think that's it in terms of the member government services. You can go to the next slide. Just want to thank you all for your time today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about your member government services, and just want to appreciate you for inviting me to come speak today.
Thank you for your time and for your passion for your project. Anyone?
Adria, do you have a business card?
I do. It's in the
Is it in the packet?
Yeah.
Open up that. Yeah.
I had a couple quick questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that the previous clerk did have this as the membership, and that's why she did the presentation, was so we could find out if we should renew or what was going to happen. You said that you test the water. Do you test it for like bacteria and stuff? And then if the bacteria is high, do you put signs up so people don't access the water, or how does that get out to people?
Yeah, so we do not have a regulatory function.
Okay.
That is not what our our organization functions as. However, if there is an area in the township that is a public bathing beach, that's something that we can partner with you on to communicate more with the health department to ensure that there is signage that's being posted. But the main way that we communicate our data is we develop reports, we develop blogs, we integrate those results into our communication products for public consumption. We also have a digital map database that folks can go in and poke around in the data. But a lot of our chemistry data, specifically E. coli, phosphorus, is largely funded by, as I mentioned, those municipal separate storm sewer system, or MS4 permittees, and a lot of that data is to help them in satisfying their MS4 permit requirements.
Okay. And where are you guys located?
We're based in Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor, okay.
One thing, Andrea. As you know, Genoa Township, as well as many other municipalities here in the state of Michigan, are concerned about the erection of solar panels and wind farms and everything.
Absolutely.
And I was told that they have some pretty toxic byproducts, that if that gets into the groundwater, that would be a problem. Do you have any knowledge of that?
I don't. I would definitely have to consult with my colleague who's a much better resource on that, but I'm definitely familiar with some of the heavy metal products that are involved in the fabrication of those, but don't have much information on pollution and how that gets into our water bodies. So yeah, if you did happen to find my contact information, please shoot me an email and I would be happy to follow up with you with more information on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Moving forward, the next bunch of agenda items, we have our utility director, Greg Tutara, here. He's going to give a brief explanation as we present each item and kind of explain what's going on. We have our trusted accountant here to back him up just in case we question his numbers. Welcome, Ken. So with that, item number 4 is consideration of a request to approve the fiscal year 2026 system labor and equipment percentage allocation, the amended DPW fund budget for fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025, and the proposed DPW fund budget for fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026.
Okay, thank you very much for having us. I want to, first of all, thank you all for meeting with me individually to go over all these so I can answer all your questions and such. And as you know, this stuff is somewhat confusing because we run 6 different utility systems all through cooperative agreement with Genoa Township and the utilities. So I appreciate you all taking the time to meet with me and learn about those and ask any questions you might have. The first item for approval tonight is this proposed 2026 system labor equipment percentage calculation. What we do is, because we run 6 different utilities, we don't want to have everyone spend all their time tracking, like I drove here and then I drove there and my truck was here for an hour and my truck was there for an hour and such. So what we do is we look at the size of the system, how many miles of pipe it has, how many different individual things we have to check on a given day. If it was a standalone system, how many individual staff would have to operate that system. We look at the budgets for those systems. Items that are labor intensive, such as fire hydrants that we maintain or grinder pumps, we include all of those. And then we come up with a percentage that we believe is equitable for that system to pay for our overall DPW budget. We've been using this formula since 2011 when we first brought our operations in-house. And so we've been going into this now for 14 years. This is our last year of our current contract, so we will be, throughout this year, working on a new intergovernmental operations contract with the 6 various utility systems. The biggest change for this year's is Lake Edgewood. So Lake Edgewood, I'll explain a little bit more when we get to that individual budget, but Lake Edgewood was its own individual groundwater discharge facility. It's located on the intersection of Grand River and Bendix Roads, and it discharged the treated wastewater to the ground. Due to some of the things I'll talk about with Oak Point in terms of risk of groundwater contamination, Concerns with the hospital coming online, the big 4-story hospital, which was going to greatly increase the flows and risk of certain chemicals. We used the ARPA funds that the township had obtained, plus reserve funds that we had through Lake Edgewood, plus some of the new user funds we had. And last year we did a $1.8 million job to construct a force main from the Lake Edgewood plant to dump it into the Geo system in front of Bordines on Grand River. And then we also converted the existing wastewater plant that was there to an equalization pump station. So basically what it does is we get flows there all day, and then that station just all day long, probably for 12 of 24 hours a day, just runs at about 160 gallons a minute, pumping that flow to the Geo wastewater plant. Because of that change, the flows greatly dropped, the number of staff needed for that facility dropped, so you can see on the allocation percentage it dropped about 0.66% for Lake Edgewood. Correspondingly then, Howell Township and Genoa Osceola kind of absorbed that additional staff, and you see those bumped up 0.43% and 0.46% respectively. So this has been used, it varies a little bit, goes up and down 1% basically, but overall the percentages stay about that time, about what it is. Like MHOG being our largest system and then Geo going from there. If we look at the actual budget itself, the first thing I want to note is you'll see up there highlighted in yellow is with admin position added for 6 months. I currently have our main billing person as well as one of my other administrative assistants that conducts all of our new development oversight, looking at retiring in the next couple of years. Given that our system is complex with 6 different utilities, the fact that we bill 14,000 accounts quarterly, and we do that with a very lean staff of only 3 people, plus answer all the phone calls, plus answer every question people have on bills, plus take utility payments over the phone and set up ACHs for residents and everything else. They're quite busy, quite involved, and with those pending retirements, I want to get somebody trained so that I'm not leaving my one individual left by themselves trying to train 2 people. So I'd much rather have 2 train 1 than 1 train 2. So what we did is we put in this position of starting this summer or late this fall, it's about 6 months left of the fiscal year, to add an admin position to start training as we prepare for those pending retirements. So kind of some succession planning. Just real quick, all of our revenue comes through utility systems. As the DPW budget, we get 0 general fund dollars from Genoa Township, 0 tax dollars from anybody. All of our money is strictly through the rates for sewer and water usage that we charge customers. Other revenue sources that we have are we bill Marion Township sewer residents. Marion Township is served by the City of Howell, however, because they're on MHOG, we do all the billing for their sewer system in Marion Township. And then you also see down there, I'd like to point out construction fees. So this year we only budgeted originally $8,000. However, so far this year we've already collected $70,000. What we do is we charge all the developments for our time and sampling and everything that we do on new water main projects, try to recuperate the impact that has on our system. We don't want it to be that the current customers are paying for new development. We want that new development to help pay for our customers. If you want to scroll down. Just a couple highlights. Overall, for the amended budget, we're looking at amending our budget down, and we're looking at having a surplus this year of around 100 and that number here quickly. $175,000. So to put that in perspective, since 2011, one of the nice things about us being a governmental agency and operating sewer and water systems over our private operators, anytime we finish under budget, we are a nonprofit, so we give all of our money that we finish under budget back to the utility systems based on that allocation percentage you just saw. So just as a note for the board, thus far through last fiscal year, which was audited, we've given back $1.381 million. If we finish as we're projecting this year, that will put us over $1.55 million that we've given back to utility systems. So the great thing about it is anytime we have a vacancy or anything like that, that money automatically goes back to systems versus going to profit or something for a company. I also like to point out that for Genoa Township, there's a benefit that we pay for Genoa Township our time, our staff here, We rent the space here in the office, in the hall. So that's shown on some of your line items up there. In addition, we also try to provide some of the things we share with Genoa Township, such as IT and Robin's staff that does all the bill receiving. We try to reimburse for that, so we provided this year $59,000 to Genoa Township to help offset those staff time. In addition, we are utilizing the township last year bought the Herbst Farm across the street. We rehabbed those barns last year, and we're now paying the township back $16,000 a year rent to pay back what the township paid to have those rehab last year. So this year it will be those, and that's a little mistake in your ad there. So it's actually 77,000. I shouldn't say 61 there. So I've given Janine an actual copy for the record that corrects that one. All these spreadsheets, I had like a J32 instead of a J31. I should have moved up a little more in my math. So I guess barring any other questions, I'd be willing to answer any questions regarding these DPW budget allocation percentage and asking for approval of that motion. Also, just so you know, with the admin position, our budget's looking at going up 4.79% this year. If we would have kept our staff current, our budget would have gone up 2.69%. So only 2.69%. The biggest cost is adding an additional person for a period of time. It should also be noted that once those people do retire, we would look to go back to just having 3 full-time equivalents again for our billing and administrative staff.
Greg, I have a quick question. You mentioned when you went over the budget with me that there was some PFAS issues that you have to try to correct or keep up with the standards, and that was also the reason why that there was an increase. Could you just remind me of that,
That's going to be
please?
for Oak Point.
For Oak Point?
Yep, when we
Okay.
get to the Oak Point budget, that one will be on Oak Point.
Okay.
The other thing I would also mention that's baked in the budget every year, Greg puts so much where he transfers to reserves to purchase like a future Vector truck or additional trucks for the township. So it's good to see that he's actually setting aside monies into a reserve fund for those types of purchases.
Excellent. Greg, what is the contract engineer? What do they do?
So we
for
used to actually have our own full-time engineer on staff here, and then she left for another position. So rather than, I guess, hire someone full-time, we found it more economical to have a contract engineer that works in here 2 days a week. So Shelby from Tetra Tech on Tuesdays and Caleb on Thursdays come into our office, and they do a lot of the engineering tasks that we have. So just an example, they'll come in here and they'll help us with some of our regulatory reports, like our mercury minimization plans or our reliability studies. They, right now, are currently going through and building system curves and pump performance curves for all of our submersible pump stations. So we have that information on hand. When we go to order a pump, we know what duty point to provide for that pump so we can order the properly sized pump for a force main. Right now, they're also going through and looking just some of the problems that other municipalities are having with ductile iron pipe breaking from H2S corrosion. They're going through our GIS system, highlighting all the ductile iron pipe that we have and looking for anywhere that we could have air in that ductile iron pipe that could result in H2S corrosion of that ductile iron pipe. So our contract engineer is just in here, that it's work that they can do without us having like a separate job, that they help us with all the engineering tasks our department has. And it's much cheaper than having our own full-time engineer in here to do that for the workload. They also help us oversee a lot of the new development. When a new development comes in, they QA, QC all the GIS for that and make sure that it's drawn in properly and such. So those are all the different tasks that our contract engineer performs.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Probably more than you wanted to hear.
Well, I'm amazed that we've been doing this since 2011. It doesn't seem like it's been that long. And there was doubts at the beginning whether it's going to work or not. We had one trustee that said, I don't believe it, and we'll see how this goes. And the proof of how much you've returned to the systems over the years shows that this is working extremely well. And it works out really good for Genoa Township.
Agreed. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I would move to approve fiscal 2026 system labor and equipment percentage allocation, the amended DPW fund budget for fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025, and the proposed DP fund budget for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026.
I'll support it.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carried. Moving on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Number 5, which is a consideration of a request for approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2025 and approval of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget for Lake Edgewood Sewer System.
Yep. So we will be going through today asking for approval for Lake Edgewood, Oak Point Water, and Oak Point Sewer. As I stated, Lake Edgewood is a small system, only about 500 customers on that system. It's kind of a tough system to run because it is so small. You can see our operating budget is right around $400,000 to $500,000 a year. Very tough to run because one of our new pumps, as Ken will attest, is about $50,000. If I bought a new pump, just for example, it's about $50,000. A lot of our things are even more than that, and if one of those goes, there goes 10% of our budget for the year. So it's definitely been great to get it consolidated with Geo. So just the first graph I have there, I'd like to look, if we're going to discuss rate increases and discuss the system, I'd like to look at the history. So looking at that graph there, if we look at our revenue to expense over time, you can see initially when I first started here in 2007, we were definitely in the red quite a bit. So the expenditures were greatly exceeding our revenues. We then did some pretty good rate increases, which you'll see on the next page. And then over many years, we were able to have our revenues exceed our expenses, just barely. I mean, we're essentially breaking even, but a little bit over time. And that money was essential that we built up in that fund to help us pay the capital cost to take Lake Edgewood off the system. Another thing, when you look at the total flow per gallon, and this is a trend you'll see for Oak Point, Lake Edgewood, they basically are not systems that we would consider growing. When you look at our two big systems of Geo and MHOG, our flows and everything per year are going up, our customers are going up. Oak Point and Lake Edgewood are essentially static. We're not seeing any new growth, any new customers. For the last 10 years, the flows have essentially remained unchanged. So you're not getting any essentially more people participating to provide additional revenue into the system. You're trying to build everything on what we have as a set flow. If we go to the next graphs, these are just the history of our rates over time. And you can see, that looks pretty daunting since 2007. Originally, the rates were about $5.12 per thousand. What we're proposing for 2026 is $7.83 per thousand. But then if you go down to the bottom, you'll see I looked at our historic rate increases as compared to inflation. And I wrote these numbers down for you. I did a calculation. So we're proposing a rate of $7.83. If you took all those inflation and we would have just over the years done exactly what inflation was per year, our rate would be $7.94 for 1,000 gallons. So we're proposing $7.83. If we would have followed inflation to a T, it would have been $7.94. So we're right there. We basically are each year trying to do an inflationary rate adjustment, which is the best way to run a system. You want to do small rate increases each year and not hit people with big ones like we had to do in 2008, 2009. That's rough on customers, rough on the system. The best thing is just kind of keep pace and keep the system slightly in the positive. And then the next numbers there are just your raw numbers for you. If we go to the budget itself for Lake Edgewood, you can see this year we proposed an original budget of $404,000. Sewer actual for 9 months were $22,000 in the red. Biggest reason for that is chemicals. We had one of the things that we didn't foresee in this was a odor control or odor problem where we discharged the gravity sewer from Lake Edgewood. And so we've had to use some chemicals to help mitigate that odor, as well as do some projects that you'll see under our repairs or maintenance. We had to essentially take our force main and readjust it coming into the one manhole to make it more of a laminar flow versus a very violent flow that released a lot of H2S, which is the rotten egg smell you get from sewage. So overall, not too bad. Another thing that's a little bit more money is we're anticipating 6 months through the year going into GEO. We were ahead of that. We took it to GEO beginning in June, so we actually had a little bit longer time of paying the wholesale treatment rates to the GEO system. Ken has had a transfer in from our reserve funds of $100,000 that you'll see up at the top in revenue on the amended budget. So that's going to let us finish with a surplus this year of around $66,000. That's going to have us with the ending fund equity of $234,000, which is about right where we want to be. One of our policies we try to follow is that we try to always maintain at least 6 months of operating cash in any of our funds. For the year coming up, you can see chemicals have jumped up quite a bit. We do have higher costs for a longer period of time going to GEO for our GEO surcharges of $160,000. We've actually dropped it. You see a place in the allocation percentage that actually resulted in a net decrease in labor, equipment, and materials. So we're going from $150,000, which originally budgeted this year, down to $130,000 for next year. And then we're basically going to break even. We're forecasting a very small loss of $8,924 on the Lake Edgewood system. And with that, I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions on Lake Edgewood.
Any questions on Lake Edgewood?
Oh, looks good, Greg.
Excellent. With
It's a
that,
3% rate increase is what we're proposing.
Not bad.
I'm curious, I do have a question though, because you're going to take a small loss on that. How are you going to make up that $8,924?
Hopefully, we won't have as many repairs.
Okay.
We consider that somewhat breaking even, just because there is so many things that are so variable in the sewer and water systems. Again, like I said, we have one pump go bad that we didn't foresee. There's a huge expense. A lot of times we try to take those out of our reserves too when that does happen. But that's our biggest thing we try to do, is just control costs everywhere we can. Another thing we're going to try to do this year is we're going to mow our own grass there. Now it's not a plan anymore. We don't have to mow it as frequently and keep it up. So we're going to take some of those things in-house and see if we can cut some more expenses off the system.
excellent. With that, if there's no further questions, I will entertain a motion on action item number 5.
I'll move to amend,
Approve.
yeah, well, I'm just looking, we have them two of them back to back. We
Yeah.
probably got to do them both, okay. Approve the amended fiscal 2025 operating budget for Lake Edgewood sewer system, and approve the fiscal 2026 operating budget for Lake Edgewood sewer system.
I have a motion.
Support.
I have a motion. I have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. On to action item number 6, which is the consideration of a request for approval to increase the Lake Edgewood metered sewer charge from $7.60 per 1,000 gallons to $7.83 per 1,000 gallons. Increase the flat rate sewer charge from $148.57 per quarter to $153.03 per quarter, and to set the minimum sewer bill from $68.40 to $70.47 for usage of 9,000 gallons per quarter or less, effective April 1st, 2025.
Now, you'll be doing, if we approve this, you'll be
I'll
doing
do
the
a notice in
publication?
paper, yep.
Okay. And then, so this is gonna become effective April 1.
Yeah, so Carol is able to, with the new BSNA, she can prorate easily. So we used to try to line it up, but
Okay.
then what we're always doing is, that would be like June 1st, well, then
Right.
we're already missing 3 months of the year at the new rate. So we just make it effective the fiscal year of April 1.
Okay. And then their billing cycle, the residents won't see this rate increase probably until
Until July.
July.
Yep.
Okay.
pretty straightforward based on the numbers. Anyone have any questions for Greg or Ken? Okay, with that then, I would entertain a motion on item number 6.
I would move to approve the rate increases as proposed by Greg Teter.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
All right, we're halfway there.
There we go. Action item number 7.
Okay.
Consideration of a request for approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2025 and approval of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget for the Oak Point water system.
Just quickly want to just point a couple things out on the cover memo I did for that. One of the things that Oak Point does have is originally was a $10 per quarter capital charge, and then I want to say in 2012 it went to 15 when we were getting ready to paint the elevated storage tank there. But just kind of give you a list history of all the different things that money has gone to. I just want residents there to know or have it documented what that money has all gone to do for that system. So a lot of very good improvements for that system. And the other thing I just want to point out for the water system is, how do we compare? You don't always want to compare yourself to other people, but how do we compare to other systems? And basically, our water rates for Oak Point are very affordable. A little less than MHOG, although MHOG is softened, we're not softened. But just for example, like Brighton City Water going into Genoa Township residents is $7.48. Northville is $6.33. Fowlerville is $6.30. That's not even iron removal water. That's just straight chlorinated water. Fenton $6.20. These are the ones I try to do are very similar rate structures. There's some systems where you'll see, well, their commodity charge is only $1.49 per thousand, but they also have an $89 flat on the front of that. Ours is only $9.97. So when you look at that, our rates are pretty comparable. Just a couple other quick things before we get into these rates. I just read an article here today from Water Finance and Management. U.S. water and sewer rates have increased 24% in 5 years nationwide.
Wow.
Also nationwide, the U.S. average sewer and water bill is $354 to $424 per quarter. So when you look at overall the United States, I think our rates are very affordable and I think Ken could even talk to that too a little bit. Like
Compared to other districts that we audit and do the accounting for, you guys are definitely maybe a little bit below the average what they're charging, which your systems run probably 3 times as well as those systems run, just because of this guy here.
Oh, that's because of our staff, not me.
And you.
So if we go through just the history again, I'd like to again do that real quick. I'm going to give you the same interesting calculation here. We're looking at our rate going to 453. If I did the strictly inflation percentage again, our rate would be at 428. So we're right there. We haven't gone crazy from what inflation's been over time for the last multiple years. And you can see again, if you go to the next one, Kelly, there we go. You can see we generally are breaking even, which is what we want to do in the water system. And again, that's with essentially our water flow per year has actually gone down. In the last 15 years, we've actually gone from about 120 million gallons a year down to about 100 million gallons a year. Some of that's weather, but I think a lot of it is also people changing out the water-saving features, more snowbirds, things like that are dropping our usage down. So we're actually selling less of our commodity. For Oak Point Water, I'm going to say that's a good thing because the system is kind of at a jagged edge of its capacity. So I'm actually happy with that because we don't really have any room to grow given our well capacity there or our iron removal capacity at that site. So overall, pretty flat there, but doing pretty good. Water is a very tough one to budget because we are so weather dependent. We make all of our revenue for the summertime. June, July, August is where all of our revenue comes in. So if it's a dry year, we're going to probably finish in the black. If you look at this past year, we're probably going to finish in the red slightly because we just didn't sell as much water as we normally do. Should be noted that Oak Point is an interesting system in that right now, my flow is about 130,000 gallons a day is what we're producing at the water treatment plant. In the summertime, on a dry day, we'll go to 1 million. So we're going up by a factor of 10. Typically, in an engineering design standard, you're looking at the most, peaking factor is typically 2.6, 2.8. At the most, 4. MHOG goes up a factor of 4. So the fact that we're going up nearly 10 makes it somewhat of a challenging system to operate with all the irrigation water that goes out. So just a little aside there.
Greg, if we were softening that water, how much would the rate go up about?
It depends. I don't know if I want to give that answer exactly. I don't know. I don't really know exactly.
About?
Probably $1 per thousand. We've looked at different ways to try to soften Oak Point water. When we had a Citizens Advisory Council, where back in 2015, we had a Citizens Advisory Council. They were asking about that. We looked at ion exchange. The problem with ion exchange is we don't have anywhere to get rid of the ion exchange is basically just what your softener does at your home.
Right.
We have nowhere to get rid of that brine. We have to do like deep well injection or something, so that's tough. Lime softening, like what we do at MHOG, where we have a renewable product, like we actually put it on farm fields for pH adjustment. We don't have the room to do that there. We're so landlocked at a point that we don't have any room to build lime lagoons or a claricone or anything like that. So we're somewhat limited. Probably the best long-term solution, and what's kind of master plan, is eventually MHOG will make its way to Oak Point to get softened water there. There's just several improvements have to occur to get it a little closer and make it more financially feasible. Right now, it's about an $8 million hit to Oak Point that I don't think anybody would like to pay. So
Seems like $1 per thousand is low.
that's not, I'm thinking just treatment-wise. not
Just treatment-wise?
capital.
Okay, not capital.
Not
Okay.
including capital.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for this year, we had original budget with a loss of 10 million, or 10,000, sorry. 10,549.
That's the big one.
So for the year, we're down a little bit on our production, but then if you look at our transfers in from DPW, that was 17,000 that came back in. We do get a good amount of money off the renting of the cell phone towers at the site as well. So for this year, we're looking at having a pretty good year. We're going to finish with 16,000 to the good. That'll put our fund equity at 308,000, again keeping us above our 6-month threshold. For the proposed budget, again, we're looking at a 3% rate increase, bringing in 522,000 in revenue. We're looking at a small loss next year of 10,652. The biggest reason is you can see under expenditures, we're looking at 10,000. We need to upgrade our chemical feed pumps that feed the phosphorus and chlorine at the water treatment plant. Ours are getting pretty old. We'd like to get those upgraded so they stay reliable. And then we do have a little bit of increase in the LEM charges, which is the labor equipment. That's going up to $279, so that's another charge. Also, I'm bumping chemicals back up, assuming we would have a full production year. And chemical costs keep rising on us as well. So those are the reasons why we're going up a little bit, and we're going to have a small loss. Again, if we sell more water next year, we're very conservative. We always base our revenue estimates on the past average of the past 3 years. 2 of the last 3 years have been very wet years, but we haven't sold much water at all. So we're hopefully being somewhat conservative, but that's where we want to be as we set rates. Would that answer any questions on the Point water system?
And this is the one that you said that had the PFAS?
No, that's
in it
the
is-
sewer. That's the last one.
The sewer?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion on action item number 7.
I'll move to, for the adoption of the budget for amended fiscal 2025 operating budget for Oak Point Water System and approve the fiscal 2026 operating budget for Oak Point Water System.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. On to action item number 8, which is the consideration of a request for approval to increase the Oak Point water metered charge from $4.40 per thousand gallons to $4.53 per thousand gallons, effective April 1st, 2025. Greg sort of just covered that, but if anyone has any further questions.
Nope.
I'd move approval.
Okay,
I'll support it.
I have a motion, I have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. On to action item number 9, which is the consideration of a request for approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2025 and approval of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget for the Oak Point sewer system.
Okay, so yeah, this is the PFAS one.
There we go. Waiting for it.
Yep. Save the best for last. The toughest one for last, I guess, for lack of better. So just quickly looking at the graphs again that we have, there's a lot of history to Oak Point. I did provide you quite a detail on that if you get a chance to review it. I won't take up any more time tonight going through that. But just going through our graphs again, if we look at our rates there, our current rates are $7.80. We're looking at holding the O&M rate the same, although we are going to propose a contamination fee to deal with the PFAS. So I'll get into that in a little more detail. But if you look at a rate of $7.80, again, if we go down to the inflation from 2007, our current rate is $7.58 per thousand. The inflation would have made the rate $7.80. So again, we kind of held right there with inflation. Again, going through the graphs, the Oak Point sewer, if we look at 2016, if we scroll down, Kelly, that's the inflation. So again, we in 2015 we added a debt charge that's where we took the Oak Point plant offline to stop the discharge from contaminating the aquifer any further. If you go to the revenue to expenses, you can see that is shown there in 2016. So the big jump you see was strictly receiving the debt charges to pay the bond payments for the $6 million capital improvement bond that Genoa Township sold to fund that project to build that force main and convert that plant to an equalization pump station and take all the flows wholesale to GEO, which all in all has been a great project. I'm so glad that we don't discharge anymore to Oak Point, although it seems like we're continually battling the historic discharge there. If you scroll down just real quick again, just as with the other systems, you'll see we have continuing declining flows at the Oak Point system over time. So, going to the budget, we've had to absorb a lot of costs in Oak Point as a result of PFAS. So just in terms of history, real fast, in 2000, the Oak Point plant had violations of sodium and chloride. Genoa Township entered into a consent judgment with the state of Michigan. At that time, I think it was DEQ, and now it's called EGLE, which is the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy Department. And the township had to pay fines for that consent judgment and also install a bunch of Mantra wells, as well as install RO systems in individual homes, and then go around to all the Oak Point residents and police them for water softener discharges. So we started in 2014 a citizens advisory group. We met with residents of Oak Point, said, hey, if we're no longer having to use potassium chloride, you can use sodium chloride again if we go this route. And we were able to, essentially, everyone agreed that probably the best thing is take this plant offline. Fast forward from 2016 to 2022. In 2022, EGLE came to us and said, Genoa Township, you guys have an existing Mantra well network. We have an emerging contaminant study we're doing. We need you to sample your Mantra wells for PFAS as part of your annual sodium chloride sampling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, lo and behold, PFAS was found in the Mantra wells, although Oak Point never had any industrial discharge. I think what it highlighted to the state was that PFAS is in every single thing we use. It wasn't strictly just industries, it's in all wastewater from everything that we use. So if you have a waterproof shirt and you wash it, you're putting PFAS into the wastewater stream. If you Your toilet paper has a trace amount of PFAS on it. Your shampoo has PFAS in it. Your dishwashing agent in your dishwasher has PFAS in it. And so it makes your dishes not have any spots on it because you're putting a surfactant on it. It's in everything. And because of that, we ended up with PFOA above the drinking water standard in 4 of our monitor wells downstream of the plant. So in 2023 then, we had to sample the residential wells most nearest the plant. Unfortunately, we did find PFAS in their wells. Fortunately, because of the sodium and chloride problem, all the residents that had PFAS above drinking water standards had point of use reverse osmosis systems that protected their drinking water. So they were not consuming any water that had PFAS in it, thank goodness. We're very happy with that. However, wanting to be proactive, we then sampled all the houses on Glenway Drive to make sure and to do full PFAS determinations. Anybody that had any detections, whether or not they were above drinking water standards, that we provided them point of use systems as well, which is what was required of us by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Just to kind of highlight what this has costed us, in between 2023 and this past year, we have spent $158,113 sampling PFAS. Each PFAS test at the lab costs $400. So if I sample someone's house and also their post-RO sample, and then I look at the time it takes a staff person to go out there, that's $1,000 per home to sample for PFAS. And this year we're budgeting $68,000 for sampling for PFAS. So in a total of 4 years we've been doing this, we're looking at $226,000 or an average of $56,000 a year in additional sampling costs to deal with the PFAS. Last year we did apply for an emerging contaminants grant from Eagle. We were not successful. We are applying again this year for that. We really need to identify a long-term alternate drinking water source for those residents so we can get out of this, having to do all this continuing sampling.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
To clarify, this is for people that are on the Oak Point sewer system that don't utilize the drinking water provided from the water tower.
Correct.
Right. So Glenway, for example, their homes have wells.
Yep, they're on wells.
Where they are on the Oak Point sewer system.
No, they're not on the Oak Point sewer system.
They're not on the Oak Point sewer
private
system?
septics there, too.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But the cost for all this does go to both the sewer customers we have a bunch of sewer-only customers around the Tri-Lakes area.
Got it.
So they have all contributed to the PFAS as well in their groundwater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
You said you're not expecting to get grant money?
They denied us once.
They denied us last year, primarily because we did a good job. It's one of those things where I feel like, what the response I got back was, well, you've addressed the immediate risk. We have other communities that have greater potential risk. You've addressed that, so we're not going to give you the grant dollars. We're restructuring our application this year to focus more on, we're really trying to identify an alternative source. So what we want to do is some 3D groundwater modeling and determine if we can find deeper wells or an area of aquifer that's sealed off from the PFAS, and then we can get lower than that and get the people clean water. I think that's a chance because when you look at, it makes no rhyme or reason, like the wells that have high PFAS versus don't. You go down Glenway Drive, it's like this house is high, next door is low, next one is high again, so it's like where are they screened in the aquifer depth, and is there clean sources of water down there we can get to? The other alternative is we do provide Oak Point drinking water down there, but that's going to be very, very costly. So unfortunately, there's not a very good answer to any of these. There's no real great answer to this problem.
Well, I think the biggest problem too is the state of Michigan's PFAS. When you say we're above the drinking water standards, state of Michigan's standard is set so crazy high.
Yeah, but now EPA came out last year, at the end of last year, and said instead of 8, which was Michigan's for PFOA and PFAS, EPA said 4.
Right.
So now Michigan's even going to go lower. We're going to go to 4.
Okay,
right.
Good.
In some states, it would have been 70. Like if we were in Illinois, Wisconsin, it would have been 70 parts per trillion. Again, this is a part per trillion too, I want to remind you. So 8 parts per trillion.
It's minute.
Yeah, a part per trillion is 1 second in 32,000 years. That's 1 part per trillion. So, just to put it in perspective.
Wow.
1 second and 32,000. So 4 parts per million is 4 seconds and 32,000 years.
It's a problem if you live that long.
The reason I asked that is because Andrea had mentioned that they do help for grants, and I don't know if that's maybe another potential source for grant money. If we're gonna get rejected and we're gonna take another run at it again, I don't know if Andrea's organization, Huron River Watershed.
Yeah, I think the best we could maybe do now, if I talk to her, is to get like an endorsement letter or something to attach to our application is due Friday.
Oh.
I've actually uploaded most of it today, but it keeps giving me one error on the state's form thing, and I can't figure out why.
You're missing the letter from her.
Absolutely.
So-
Yeah, just to chime in, we work with Multi-Lake Sewer out in Lake Township on one of those grants to facilitate sort of the outreach and education component of that work. So yeah, we'd be happy to provide a letter of support.
All right, there we go.
Give her some more cards, Greg.
Good timing.
I will give a card. So what we're proposing to do, Ken and I came up with this idea, is I think to be the most transparent with the Oak Point residents, we want to put a charge in there that's strictly just for this PFAS. So what we're proposing is $1 per 1,000-gallon charge. It stinks. I don't like doing rate increases. Nobody likes doing rate increases, but putting $1 per 1,000 gallons or $13 on a flat separate line item on their bill that's called environmental contamination fee. I can't think of, unfortunately, a better name for it than that. But that's really what it is. And we're going to put together a little write-up for residents to explain that and put some of these costs that I've shared with you tonight in terms of how much this is costing us, as well as some of the maps of residents that's impacted. So, hopefully people understand, like, this stinks. It's unfortunately a part of the long-term groundwater discharge there. But also put yourselves in the people's shoes whose wells have been impacted. They're very upset because they feel like, their property's been lowered, value's been lowered, and they have to deal with contamination and such. So we're trying to do a balancing act between the Oak Point residents and the Glenway residents, and we're gonna. So we want to hold our O&M rates to show that the costs we're charging are not going up for this year. We want to hold those, but then we want to put this on there. Then too, like long-term, if we do come up with a way to lower this or something, that's a fee we can look at, just keeping it as a separate cost center in our budget versus kind of glomming it with all the O&M, because it really shouldn't be conflated with O&M. It's not really anything we can control.
What's the projected amount of money you'll collect from that?
So we would collect $69,832 annually.
On the $1 per 1,000?
Yep, and or on a flat rate, $13, which we think is about the average about what a flat would give us.
Right.
Yeah, flow.
So we would actually have a billing before this kicked in to Oak Point, or did we just do a billing for Oak Point?
The bills just went out last week.
All right, but you said you were gonna draft information to send to them.
Yep.
And then the nice thing Greg does too is he'll have a letter of explanation at our counter, so when the staff is collecting the bills and people are upset, then at least we can hand them that explanation, so very helpful.
Yeah. I can share that with you too, like the next meeting when we put it together. I just was gonna wait to do that.
Okay, well, of course.
Got it adopted, so. Anything to add, Ken?
Can't think of anything, right? Summed it up perfectly.
All right, any further questions?
No, unfortunately, it has to be done.
This is, yeah.
It does, yeah.
And
Have no choice.
we've tried in the past, just Robin can even tell you this too, when I was both on the County Board of Public Works, so I still am, but when I was on the County Board of Public Works, as well as back in Genoa Township, like we a couple of times told the state we're not doing it. That didn't work out very well.
We tried.
Yeah, the Attorney General's office doesn't like that, I don't think, very well.
So we actually are following along. We would be back on a motion on item number 9 on the budgets would be the first motion.
I move to approve the amended fiscal 2025 operating budget for Oak Point Sewer System and to approve the fiscal 2026 operating budget for Oak Point Sewer System.
I have motion.
Second.
I have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now moving on, action item number 10, motion.
Yeah, I think I want to do this one as well, because then they can all complain to me, so I'm an Oak Point resident.
Same.
Move to add the $1 per 1,000 gallon, or 13.25 per flat rate customer charge for environmental contamination fee, and to keep the O&M and grinder pump fees rates the same, and rates and charges unchanged for fiscal 2026.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
All right?
I have a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Great job, Greg.
Pass this down.
Appreciate all the hard work you've done with this.
Absolutely. Take
Yeah, these small systems are, I swear there's much work as MHOG.
Under discussion.
Okay, and with that, we will move on to action item number 11. Consideration of a request for approval to appoint trustee Bill Reiber as the alternate representative to the Brighton Area Fire Authority Board with a term ending November 20, 2028, as requested by the township supervisor. This is per the amended and related articles of incorporation of BAFA, which they just redid right at the beginning of December. They created an alternate position to make sure that there's always full attendance at the meetings.
Do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
We did check ahead. We didn't just bring it up.
If you do, and we get vote on this, you will have to get sworn in for this position as well.
Okay.
So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion. Second?
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. On to action item number 12. This is a consideration of a request for approval of a proposal from GoGov to establish a citizen notification and alert system, My Genoa app, with an annual subscription cost not to exceed $4,800 commencing on April 1st, 2025, as requested by Trustee Walker.
Okay. Shall I read the memo, or do we just want to move on to discussion?
If you feel...
We've discussed this topic several times.
We have.
We're kind of the odd man out in the local area with not having an app. I guess the biggest question we had was who's going to be the pusher of the information. So in our commitment to increasing our public outreach, we have been posting more on Facebook and more on the Nextdoor app, and I communicated with the administrator of the GoGov organization that would represent us, and it was explained to me that whomever currently posts on Facebook would instead post on the upload the information to the URL that they would provide for us for the app. So it's not going to be additional work. It's just going to be different work. And at the same time that they would post something to be pushed out to people on the app, we could make it so that it would link to also go out to Facebook at the same time. And it could also be sent to like an email e-blast if we wanted to select those options. Those options don't cost anything extra. It just increases our ability to reach out to people and share information with them.
I believe, I wasn't there, but I thought that from our town hall meeting, there were comments about pushing information aggressively out versus passive, where you have to go in and look it up on the, so I think from that perspective, and Todd, I apologize, but you saying that where it's you're just pushing the same information with a different button and it filters, I mean, it sends it out to multiple different media sources. I mean, that's great. I don't think that there's any extra human intervention needed. One-stop shopping, so.
Yeah, it's not going to be an additional workload on somebody.
Yeah.
The same people or the same person would be doing the same work. It would just be going to a different place as well as the place that it was going to begin with.
Who does that now?
Kathleen Murphy.
The receptionist.
Okay.
And it would be allowed for there to be more than one pusher of information. So it's not restricted to one person.
Perfect. There is kind of a balance between Kathleen and Adam Van Tassel, our IT director. He does a lot of stuff on the website. She does a lot of stuff on the socials. So,
Adam also does the monthly email for the newsletter.
so that's great if they could both connect into it.
Yeah. Yep. They said there could be more than one administrator. Got to be cautious about too many hands in the pot, though.
Of course.
But,
Absolutely.
I think it would be a good value, especially with the master plan coming up and the comments that Attorney Joe Seward made at our last meeting, where he, having gone through this recently, wished that they would have had this resource available to them.
I also wonder if we're currently using, I think, Constant Contact for the news bulletin blast. I don't know what the subscription fee is there, but if this gives an opportunity to replace that, potentially there could be, the financial impact of this could be less if we're no longer using Constant Contact.
Well, and honestly, the financial impact of this is a big part of my concern on this. You know, we've got a lot of people saying you need to crunch your budget, you need to save money, and then here we are proposing $4,800. I did download the My Howl app. I didn't do Brighton.
Okay.
I did only get 2 notifications in the last 2 weeks since our last board meeting, which surprised me. So if they're not even putting out that much information, I'm concerned about how much we'd have. And one was a weather advisory, and I'm not sure we want to get into the weather advisory business. I get enough of those already. Even my Ring doorbell told me there was a storm the other day. So.
You can select what things you want to, what categories of information you wish to receive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Constant Contact is email, where this
It
is
is.
like text.
It does mention in the paperwork that it includes email.
Oh, okay.
So,
And this isn't text. This is anybody who downloads the app.
Yeah.
They would assist with, like,
And
through
allows
our
notifications.
existing social media to, like, with marketing, to make people aware that the app is available for them to download.
When I went to the Howl app, basically that page that Kelly just had up, if you can back up one, Kelly, it took me right to a link page where every link just took me to their website that already existed. So it was just, I mean, granted, it's a more convenient place to get to those links. I just question how much Genoa would use it.
I do like it, but again, yeah, we're getting concerns on every penny spent. So it becomes a want versus a need situation. I wish you didn't have to subscribe for a whole year kind of thing. Get a little test of the waters before you commit and dive in.
Well, we're not committed to 2.
Well, we did commit to our video, and we were unsure about viewership, but we did it in the spirit of improved communication, transparency, convenience, and that was that was a little bit more than this. I mean, Todd worked the guy down, and thank you, Todd, for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went out on a limb for that one,
We did.
so.
What about the Brighton app?
There was,
What kind of information is on that? I don't have that.
I didn't download that one.
Brighton's kind of quiet right now. They had a lot of stuff going on when they were doing their whole Main Street stuff going on. I have both of them on mine. Brighton seems to do a lot more traffic stuff lately, what I'm getting out of that.
What kind of things would you like to see on it, Todd?
Mostly traffic, reaching out for updates on like master plan meetings, master plan ideas. I got a notification from the Howell app regarding trash and recycle pickup. That was
That's one you sent out today.
today.
Yeah. So, do they have any numbers on how many people they have that subscribe to the app? Howell or Brighton? Like, how many
I
people
don't
are
have
actually utilizing that?
I don't have that.
No, do you know if they do? They know how many people subscribe to it?
He didn't ask.
Didn't ask.
Yeah. That would be kind of an interesting thing to find out is, how many people they actually have utilizing the app. It's just like
what percentage
the
of the
streaming that
population?
we
yeah.
do, how many viewers do we get? It's
How many viewers?
Well, right
do
now we
have?
have 13 people, it seems, watching our YouTube live stream. Is that accurate, Kelly?
That's what I have as well.
13.
One thing I'm thinking about, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud, is we have to come up with our servers, right? They're almost at capacity, and we have a big chunk of change that's going to have to come up with that. So I kind of like this idea, but I'm not sure if the timing is perfect. The server, we're interviewing like another company, or we're having a meeting with them to kind of give us an idea of what they recommend for our servers and stuff. So I'm almost wondering if we could ask them if they have a familiar product that could be a little bit more, I guess, competitive if we do like a package deal with the server stuff and this together, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, but ironically, all the grassroots polling I've done in the community, the only negative feedback that I've received is at this table. Even after having mentioned the cost. So the product this product is proven. Other local municipalities have like test driven it, shopped it, and chosen it, and they like it.
How long have they had it? How long has the Brighton had it? I guess since the remodeling.
I believe I've had it for, I'd say about 3 years.
All right, and they've probably had it for longer. About how recent?
I've had the Howell app for, I believe, going on 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it say like the Melon Fest is coming up this weekend, like that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
and I got a notification from the Brighton app a couple days ago that there was a snow emergency in effect. I got another notification from Howell telling me that there was a water main that was broken and a detour that needed to be used. I got another notification from the city of Brighton today saying, hey, reminder, offices are closed because of President's Day. And it's a convenient way for us to stay engaged with our constituents, which is something we committed to in our campaign.
I will say, today we got a lot of phone calls asking if garbage was going to be delayed this week because of President's Day.
Yep.
So that kind of is a perfect example of a push that could have went out this morning.
Exactly. My
Is it
son
gonna be-
came in
No.
last night, he's like, are you
It
sure
is
there's
not.
school tomorrow? You know?
Yeah.
So, no, I think it's a value. I think we should move on it.
Well, at that, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to go ahead and, my motion is to go ahead and approve the not to exceed $4,800, to go ahead and work with this vendor to take a shot at it.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Discussion, please?
Yes, I was going to
Is
say.
this just for 1 year?
It is.
Okay.
So it's-
Further discussion?
we're not committed to 2.
Does anybody have the apps downloaded except Todd?
I do. Just
You too?
how?
Bill,
I
you
did.
have one?
I did on my other phone, and
You?
I have both.
Me, I don't have it either. I don't have it either. Do you, Kevin?
I do not.
I think 2 or 3 meetings ago, I recommended that everybody at the table
I know.
download one or both of the apps so that we could test drive it and make an informed decision.
I'm a little, I just don't have a ton of apps on my phone, that's all.
My storage is full on my phone.
I don't either.
But yeah, I'm familiar with.
Does it
with
ding
how it
every
works.
time
And
you
if
get
we
the
approve the-
notification?
Oh, you can set the settings for
If
that.
you want it to or not? But that is an option to do that?
You can select what category you want to be notified for all of them.
so we have a motion.
Have
Do we have a
has
second?
Kathleen or Adam looked at this at all, do you know?
They have not.
That's our bad. We probably should have had them take a look at it, but
Yeah, but I'm confident our staff will be able to handle it. I'm not
it
concerned
seems
about that. Yeah.
pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I am not at all concerned that the staff
don't-
won't be able to
And
get the job done if
It
needed.
appears that this company provides quite a bit of support as
do.
part of that initial setup and launch as well, just in my review of the information. It
they do.
appears to
The
be
gentleman's name is
supportive.
Kevin, and he's like, you're going to work with me for
He's got
a
it.
couple, 3 weeks.
Good guy.
And it's going to take maybe an hour and a half of effort from us to provide them with pictures that we want, like for like a homepage or whatever background stuff that we want our people to see.
I did also speak to Tara at the City of Brighton. She's the one that does the city's app.
Oh.
And she offered her help as well. If
Oh,
we
that's
went
cool.
forward with this, she said she'd come over and give any guidance we needed.
Fantastic.
So I do have a motion, I do have a second. I would think that we would do a roll call vote on this one.
Okey dokey. Ah. Lost my paper. Here we go. Hovarder,
Yes.
Susie,
No, not at this time.
Deaton, I'm also saying this is not perfect timing, so my answer is no. Hunt,
Yes.
Reiber,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Spiker,
No. Okay. That would
4 to
be
3, right?
4 to 3.
4-3.
So, motion carries. My Genoa app has been approved. Item number 13, consideration of a request for approval of amendments to the agenda management and minutes policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For your consideration this evening, I have prepared some amendments to the agenda management and minutes policy. Some of these amendments were requested by the clerk as it relates to responsibility for the township board meeting minutes. The other changes were just corrections based on current practice. I can go through them one by one, or I can make myself available for questions. I know the meeting's been a little long, so Mr. Chair, I'll defer to you to how much you want me to go into detail on this.
One thing I wanted to change, item number 7 and 8. It says comments and discussions shall be summarized. I'd like to change that to synopsis for both 7 and 8 per the MTA guidelines. Guidelines are on page
So comments and discussions shall be a synopsis, and number 8, a synopsis of the comments and arguments made.
yes.
Okay, instead of summary.
What's the difference between a synopsis and a summary?
kind of one and the same, aren't they?
That's the outcome.
Synopsis is basically what the outcome is, and the summary is the shortened version of a discussion and the outcome. I think our minutes are too long.
My only concern with doing that is it is very helpful to go back to see what was decided 5 years ago. And to determine how the board came to that conclusion, you do need a little bit more information. I by no means ever want word for word, but I like the way we're currently doing them, personally.
So, a synopsis would be that the vote was yes, right?
The vote was yes. So if you
Versus the vote was, or discussion was, and the vote was.
Correct.
I kind of feel there might be a need for some discussion notes versus just the word yes.
Well, there's a summary of what you're voting on and an explanation of what the topic is that you're voting on. And this is what I'm saying is just to change it to what the roll call or what the synopsis of who voted and how they voted. Livingston County does it this way. Hamburg Township does it this way. And Brighton Township, I've noticed that their meeting minutes does it this way as well. We're so far the only township, and I believe Green Oak as well, we're the only township that does the summary of who said what. And we're always changing minutes. Going back, this is our 4th time of changing minutes from previous statements. So this would just eliminate some of the confusion and discussion that we have.
I guess my only other concern is on occasion when someone's voted no, we discussed that it's nice to have the reasoning why somebody voted no.
Well, we're also
I
adding.
agree, because that prevents somebody being accused of just like arbitrarily choosing to vote no.
Right.
Rather than giving a reason for voting no.
Right.
But we also have the video now where we didn't have before.
That is true.
I hear you there, but I don't like it.
Okay.
I just want to add, I know there are some specific requirements related to public hearings. So one instance where the township board holds a public hearing would be on a special assessment rule. And I feel like there's something in the law about special assessment rule that requires there to be a record of the comments made when someone's speaking about a special assessment. Like the formal public hearings may have, and I can go through this MTA thing, or maybe we can just get the opinion from an attorney, but I do feel like there are some requirements, at least as it relates to those specific public hearings, whereby the record can't just say that so-and-so expressed displeasure regarding. I think it needs to be a little more specific.
And I think you're right, Kelly, because if a resident that's in a special assessment district, if they want to go to the Michigan Tax Tribunal and fight the special assessment, they have to say no to the town at the public hearing. So without that specific in the minutes, you're not going to get what they need to legally
I actually
have.
just found that. It's on page 80 of your packet.
I was gonna say, if you pull up 79, you can kind of see what I'm referring to on what the minutes versus the synopsis looks like.
So this is specific to publishing. So there is a requirement of the law that we have to publish a copy, a synopsis of our minutes in the local newspaper, or we're allowed to post the minutes and then publish that it's being posted. So this, page 79, is specific to how you publish your minutes. And then here on page 80 of your packet, that starts according to MTA Legal Counsel. You can see it starts, when a public body conducts a public hearing, the minutes should include the comments and arguments of those promoting or opposing a particular matter, which is the subject of the public hearing. and the fact that an opportunity to be heard was given to those present. And it specifically references the special assessment role. So I think the synopsis in this manual is meant more for the publication requirements.
I would agree. I think the minutes need to be a summary and not a synopsis, but the publishing or the posting could be the synopsis. That's how I read it. Is that what you're?
That's correct. Many communities publish a synopsis, which is essentially very similar to what the supervisor has been sharing on Nextdoor, just a very brief recount of what happened at the meeting. We currently just published a notice that the minutes are available, and we don't publish a synopsis in the local newspaper. We do a posting of it and post them on the website.
It also states here, it says, according to MTA legal counsel, although the minutes do not have to include a verbatim recitation, I can't say that word, of all statements made at the meeting, a record of the topics, which is the topic I'm talking about, or issues addressed to the meeting, and any motions made, provides a complete description of the proceedings of the meeting. We also note that if the Township Board has adopted a policy of following the provisions of Robert's Rules of Order, it requires the recordation of all motions, whether passed or not, in the meeting minutes. So, like I stated before, if you look at some of the other, and I would be happy to pass this along, of the other townships and as well as the county on how they do their minutes. This is the Board of Commissioners. Here's a perfect example. You guys can take a look and how they record the minutes. This one is
Has Genoa Charter Township adopted a policy of following the provisions of Robert's Rules of Order?
We have not.
Okay,
That's Brighton Township.
We use it as a guide.
correct, but
We're not a
It's not a
formal
policy.
parliamentary procedure.
right.
And this is Hamburg Township's minutes. This is done in look.
I've looked at them.
I don't know that it jives
I
with
don't.
our interest in full transparency to shorten
It
up
does
the
not.
minutes, is my concern.
Attorney Joe did caution in a conversation that I had with him that if you are going to vote yes or no on, if you're going to vote especially no on something, you should vote no with a reason and not just no. That makes it not arbitrary. It makes it defendable in court. So having that recorded, I feel is very important.
And I understand it's frustrating to look at the minutes and then over a semantic of a word or here or there, we want to change it when it's just supposed to be, does it have the general feel of what we're trying to accomplish there? So maybe as we go along more and more, we'll get away from worrying so much about this word or that word left out. We'll just, it gives a general sense of what we're trying to say. We won't have to go back and forth and amend minutes all the time. And I understand that frustration. But I think it does need to be
Summary.
a summary of the discussion.
It
Just-
protects us.
So I've heard the nays being, it could be useful to have details, especially if there's a no vote. We've been advised to try and at least explain why you're not just picking on the person. But I've also heard the benefit, and Rick, you were getting into whittling it down, how much we go back bickering about minor jots and tittles, on the agenda corrections. I guess, Janine, going from 4 pages of meeting minutes down to a page or page and a half.
We're like at 9 pages.
Yes, okay. So, but I mean, I saw in here, in the body of it here, what other benefits would there be? Because I saw it and I asked in an email today, and I'm sorry it was late in getting out, but the recording secretary has mentioned several different times. Does this get rid of the need for that service, or,
No.
I mean, okay, so it doesn't, okay.
Nope.
I'm just trying to do a benefits versus drawbacks here, so,
Saves hard drive space.
and trees.
Well, if it's all right for the commissioners and all those other townships to do it that way, why wouldn't it be okay for us?
That's what I'm asking. So here's the commissioners one, so you guys can see that the.
Depends how
I've
committed
looked
they
at
are
at
to
what they
transparency.
do at the county level.
Depends how committed they are to transparency. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we do have the meetings recorded, so, and then we have, I'm also adding at the top of the meeting minutes, the YouTube channel where the meetings are held, that people can always go back and watch. And they even have on their call to the public, they don't have who said what, just who spoke.
Yeah, I am 100% against that.
So the only problem, I mean, I understand now the YouTube kind of changes everything, but it really doesn't, because it's really nice to be able, you can go to our website and search within minutes for keywords and find what happened at a meeting 2-3 years ago or 10 years ago.
Plus
You
it
can't
says
do that with a YouTube
We
video.
are
guys.
obligated to maintain minutes. Doesn't say YouTube is obligated to maintain minutes. What if YouTube decides to like just
That's just a benefit
fold
of
off?
something though. I mean, it's a benefit that we get. We are paying for the YouTube channel. Right?
It's
So-
free, but.
Yeah,
But
we're
we
not
have
paying
no
for the
control over
camera.
our data.
Well, we are paying for the camera,
Yeah,
yep. Absolutely.
YouTube could
It could go away
fold
tomorrow.
up shop right
Yeah.
now. They could turn us off. Boop.
Yep.
And I noticed here in the commissioners, they do have some, well, they had one vote here that was 9 no's, and they didn't, listen to Joe. They just said it just failed. So
Right.
they're not recording
I'm thinking
why.
more of a contrarian than just a yes or a no, depending how it's worded, could be the thing. I absolutely don't like, if somebody speaks to the public, it should, somebody express concern about this topic. I mean, it doesn't have to be a quote of everything they said, but
It generates
otherwise we have no
accountability.
idea what they're even here for. It would just be 20 people got up and spoke.
It generates accountability. And plus, our agendas have been kind of long to speak to the length of our minutes. We've had some pretty deep topics.
So with that, have we exhausted our discussion, and am I seeking a motion, or would we like further discussion?
And these are elections.
No. It's their minutes.
Well, no. So topic 11B was election of board vice chair.
Yeah, so go to the next page or, whatever they had.
Those are their standard minutes.
Okay.
so.
They're shorter than ours. I will not dispute that.
They are.
Jenny.
They seem to be.
Now, why is it you want to switch formats?
Because I think that we are always correcting minutes from, previous weeks. And we're taking up several minutes of time. And then the minutes are really long and there's a lot of, I just like to condense them, if that makes sense to you.
To Rick's point, I do think that we potentially will get better. I mean, we're all new at this. We'll get better at our statements and how we perceive them to want to be corrected.
And let some of the minor stuff just go. It's not that important. The gist of what we were talking about is there. That's good enough. It's not supposed to be exact, so. And I think we've sometimes zeroed in on being exact, and we'll get better at that.
I would say the happy medium lies somewhere between our 9 pages and the 1 page. So I guess the wording of that is
I think you've made your point.
up to somebody.
But I think we need to stick with a summary versus a synopsis. We just need to understand better maybe what it should be.
We can come up with our own format. I think there's room for improvement to shorten these things. Unanimous votes, vote passed unanimously, done. Public comments, Kevin, you make a valid point. If the people are gonna drive up here, stand up there, all stage fright and everything, maybe not a record of all 3 minutes, but what their point was, I take little.
Or at least what their concern was.
And then
So you
if
can
there's
judge how many
a
people had
no
a
vote,
concern about
maybe
what
some
topic.
detail behind that, but I think we can pick and choose and whittle down to Janine's point. She makes a valid point,
Absolutely.
that they're long. I think there's room to be thinned out.
Can I
It's
see the
too
green
much.
real quick?
Well, and I think, just to add, I don't want to speak for Patty, but Patty takes pretty detailed minutes at Planning Commission and Zoning Board because they have to be at that level. And I'm sure that just this discussion tonight will help her hone in a little bit on what specifically this board wants. I'm sure she's hearing a little bit less, maybe a little more of a summary than has been in the minutes. So I think we can just continue to refine how this board wants its minutes to be. And we can do more or less as long as the law allows it.
And you do a great job for us.
You do. True. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So just right there.
So I guess.
That's all we really needed.
Or however somebody wants to motion is how it
So
is.
I do have a question. If we make a motion, somebody seconds it, for any vote, any item, and let's say the motion fails, is it dead forever?
No, you come back.
Well, regardless, I want to take the minutes back, change the policy. The current
Yeah.
policy from 2023 was that it was for the township manager to take care of the minutes, and we're going to change that to clerk.
So can we
Would-
vote on that portion?
Yes.
Basically, everything is written, there seems to be an agreement on, the only concern is summary versus synopsis.
And Janine, would you consider, after the discussion you've heard from the other members, would you consider doing the summary instead
I
of?
would consider doing the summary if we can really shorten it up. So, like, we could do a board discussion, and we could, if we could do the call of the public, summarize that and stuff like that, I guess I would be okay with that.
Okay. Then, I think Kelly's right. I think Patty's kind of got the feel of what everyone here is looking for, and I think.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, good idea.
Absolutely.
So what is,
So at that
Kind of
point,
for the
I
motion.
would,
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to either approve or deny the wording as presented for the minutes. Where are we at? The approval of amendments to the agenda management and minutes policy. And those
As
amendments are
submitted.
highlighted.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same?
So here's
Motion carried.
synopsis, too.
Okay. On to action item number 14, which is delivery of the trustee appointed official compensation policy as approved by the Township Board on February 3rd, 2025.
One thing the reason why I wanted to bring that up is when we amended this policy at the last meeting, I voted yes for the drive time to be considered with the new policy. I didn't realize that mileage would be also included, and I feel that the drive time and mileage is double dipping the drive time or the drive stipend calculation versus the per diem and then mileage. But to add the drive time, because everybody knows if you have to go to a meeting, it's your appointed position to head to that meeting, but to get paid to drive, not many people get paid to drive. Like, I don't get paid to drive to meetings. I just show up. But you get mileage reimbursement. So I think that, or I feel that you shouldn't get paid for drive time. It should just be the per diem for the meeting and then mileage reimbursement. So I'd like to see that changed.
And we're really talking about not many meetings. The township trustees, most of the appointed boards that everyone is on are held within Livingston County. And you don't get mileage for Livingston County.
Right, so that's
we're
a
really-
very valid point too.
Yeah.
Your job is to show up at the meeting and you don't get paid for drive time, you just show up.
Right.
So whether it's
If we could
inside
just,
or
like,
outside the township,
Show up, like beam ourselves there, that'd be great. But if it's an hour drive, there should be some compensation for that time and also for the wear and tear on our vehicles for using them to get there.
Well, that's what the mileage is, definitely, the mileage.
Correct, so you get your
So
travel
this
time
becomes more
plus
of
your
an
mileage.
issue. This becomes more of an issue when we got into the stipend things. Of
Yes.
how much
Exactly.
time versus just a per diem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To go to Detroit for SEMCOG and get paid a per diem is one thing, plus mileage. To go there and be told it's only an hour and a half meeting and you're getting a partial per diem, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to it. And to Robin's point, there's very few meetings that we have that are outside of Livingston County, and for those few examples where it is necessary for someone to drive to Detroit or someone to go to Lansing or whatever, I don't think it's I think it's appropriate to pay both. One doesn't have anything to do with the other.
I agree.
And I just want to make a distinction. The payment, including travel time, is only for the stipend. So if you go to Detroit, for example, to attend a SEMCOG meeting that you are attending as a voting member, you get the full per diem, nothing for your drive time. This would only be in a situation where you're not going to a meeting or you're going to a class or a meeting that you're not voting at, and then the stipend would kick in and the drive time could be included, the way it's currently phrased.
Right.
Right.
So I made the changes that I thought I heard the board wanted. I included it in tonight's packet just to deliver it to the board, but obviously if there's further refinement that needs to be made, I'm happy to make it.
It's confusing.
It is.
We really couldn't have made this
More complicated.
more complicated if we tried.
The attempt was to simplify, but I think.
I don't think we
and it
did.
didn't clarify.
I don't think we did. Because really, when you say travel time and mileage, it seems like a duplication of pay.
Yeah.
But it takes you time to get there. At my other job, when I go to attend events, if they're not around, I get paid for my drive time and my miles.
You do?
Yeah, and my time to be at the event.
Right.
And most of the time, things that we attend are here. So nobody's expecting any kind of,
Right.
Correct.
mileage for here. It's just like at a long distance.
Right.
Like if we were gonna go somewhere out of town, far away, plus be at the event. I mean, I could see that.
I think I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but I think we all felt the same way, except for you felt it was a duplication. So you could always change your vote on the last deal to say no.
I think it was very unclear
No,
when I voted for the drive time. I didn't know it also included mileage.
Well,
I
Rick
thought for
offered to
sure.
I
drive your
understand.
car instead of his.
I understand that's how you felt.
I said nobody will drive my car.
Exactly.
That's, yeah, I don't feel, I think it's double dipping the drive time. And I just want to make it clear, and I want to go on record, just like you guys all go on record for your vote. I don't think it should be, you should be paid to drive to an event that's being paid for you already. When I attend meetings, I'm expected to show up. I don't get paid drive time or mileage. I show up.
And
So-
that's fine if it's like local, but if we have to drive for an hour somewhere and an hour back, that's not the norm for us. To
Well,
go
I do have to travel outside of Livingston County, but I'm not gonna put
in
in
your realtor
for.
job,
No, I'm talking about
what do you mean?
clerk stuff.
clerk
Well,
stuff. Oh, okay.
But you're not paid on a per diem or stipend, it's part of your salary.
But I do a lot of
Got
work,
it.
I
so.
understand. So.
It's a
I
different
think to
system.
Clarify this thing, if you want to bring it to a vote again, we'll have the vote again to include it. You can say no, you can say yes. I don't know where you want to go with it.
I still think it's confusing
It is.
because there's a difference of opinion just between us and we all had a hand in the pie. Right? So I'm thinking maybe, and Kelly, you did a great job, bang up job.
You did what the discussion was.
Exactly.
Table.
But it's almost a chart. If, and, follow the X, follow the Y, and you either get a yes or a no. That's, I don't know how else to put it, Greg had all kinds of charts and graphs over here, but I mean, it's still, Janine, you thought it's a double dip. Not everybody feels that same way. Drive time. We did this, remember, we did this Kelly added this whole thing for a quarter per diem. We did this so that we could get rid of some of the gray areas and get rid of some questions, so that it is either a yes or a no. It's right in black and white.
Complaining about past
Going to
times
getting
where
a
somebody
full-
went to a 20-minute
getting
function
a
and got a
full per
full
diem
per
for
diem.
a-
I mean,
a-
Right.
That's what it was done for.
Yeah.
Right.
So I almost.
But if you're gonna go to a SEMCOG event, it's a full per diem anyways, plus mileage.
Only for
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. They can have events that last an hour or an hour and a half.
And they have events that are
then you don't
educational
get paid
versus
a quarter
voting
per
members.
diem. Right. Unless you
But
include
most of the time, Todd
Then
is
you
the
would
one
get-
that's on the
that's, I think, part
SEMCOG.
of it.
He's the only one that's supposed to go. And he's the only supposed to go to the meetings. Is there a lot of other things you're supposed to attend?
No, they're kind of like ad hoc.
Yeah, the admin committee kind of considers items that are not actual voting meetings
And those are handled
for
like
approval.
on an ad hoc, like with permission basis.
They do have an executive committee, they have a general counsel, and then they offer a lot of educational opportunities. So majority of where you could find stipends related to SEMCOG is likely going to be someone who's interested in attending an educational opportunity with SEMCOG.
And those would require permission.
And I just want to add that, not to complicate things further, but the mileage reimbursement is in a separate policy. We have a travel and mileage policy, which is where the information about mileage is. It's in a completely separate policy. And maybe we should reference that here. I didn't feel like I wanted there to be any overlap between a compensation policy and a mileage policy, so those are in two separate documents right now.
Right, that's where my confusion lies, because I didn't think it was both the same, so. That's all, I'm just trying to do what I can to save the taxpayers' money here and what we were hired to do, so.
100%.
So where do we go from here now?
Well,
I think it was already done, and she's just voicing her.
yeah,
On the record.
if somebody feels we need to reaffirm our vote, we can.
Well, I would like to
Otherwise-
make a motion to re-vote for this, knowing that there is the mileage on top. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I had confusion, and I want everybody to be clear that there is mileage associated with the drive time, and that wasn't clear during last meeting. And so now I would like to do another roll call vote to approve it, knowing that there is mileage and drive time together with the per diem, or stipend, sorry.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, I
And
have a
we shall
motion.
summarize and not synopsize.
I have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, it's complicated to take a vote on this. And I struggle to vote no on this because the argument is the mileage that's over in a different policy. If I vote no on this, we're going to eliminate the quarter per diem values, the half. We're going to take away all the other work that we did.
No, we're not. We're eliminating the drive time. That was added after the fact. The original stipend was added, what Kelly prepared for the meeting at the last meeting, and then Todd made a motion to add the drive time. This is the amended version of
Okay.
Todd adding the drive time to
So we're not
the
really
original.
addressing the mileage, we're addressing
the
the
drive
drive time.
The drive time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll probably need to make a motion to move it from discussion into an agenda item.
We
already did
That
that.
was
That's
at the
already
beginning of
done?
the meeting. Yeah.
Where was I at?
I did that at the very beginning of the
Okay.
meeting.
So,
Yeah.
just let me clarify then. The motion is to
Revisit.
this and vote to approve without including the drive time, which wasn't in there to begin with.
Correct. So I put up on the screen the motion from the last meeting, which was to add that with the stipend for drive time added for anything outside Livingston County.
Okay.
So that was a specific addition to the policy as part of last meeting's
Okay.
action.
So what does a yes vote mean then? Or a no vote?
So the motion was to approve it as presented at the last meeting.
The red line version that we're looking at here on the screen.
Yes.
Or it was in our packet, sorry.
Reconfirmed.
Basically, the same vote as last time. Voting yes means you accept the policy that was delivered this
Including
evening.
drive time.
Voting no
Including drive
means
time.
you-
Voting yes means drive time.
Okay.
No means
Yeah,
no drive
exactly.
time.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So is that the motion, what they did last time too? It's the same
Yes.
motion, you just want to revote?
Yes.
Understood.
Well, it's how it's written now with the drive time. We're just going to re-vote, knowing that there's mileage. So if you vote yes, you agree to drive time included. If
Okay,
you
so
vote,
can you restate the motion?
Just
let's see, motion to,
just do the same one that's there.
no, that one doesn't have the drive time.
Yes, it does. That is what we approved.
Yes, it does.
We approved it with drive time. We just want to do the same vote with some people having clarity that it includes, they're going to also be dipping into mileage.
Okay. So the motion is delivery of the trustee-appointed official compensation policy as approved by the Township Board on February 3rd, 2025, including the drive time.
So do we accept the delivered version, or do we not accept the delivered version? Accepting the delivered version is accepting the drive time.
Gotcha.
And not accepting it is not going to throw the whole thing out.
Correct. It's the drive time we're
Okay.
discussing. Okay.
I'm-
I
Am I
just
right or
want
wrong?
to, yeah, but I just want to jump in. If this motion fails, then I would, just for clarification, prefer to have a motion to approve it without the changes to section 2.02, just so that I can, there were a few other corrections I made
Right.
to the policy.
And that's my fear. I
So
don't
if
want
we're
to
taking
throw out
the-
everything.
Yeah, if we're taking out the changes to 2.02, that we would accept the other changes in the event the motion fails.
Would the maker want to revise the motion to just, no, you
I
have to
think
take it out?
if it
and
fails,
then-
somebody can
Okay.
make another motion.
Okay.
That would be
Okay.
great.
All right.
So
Everybody
voting-
got this?
So voting yes includes drive time.
Voting yes.
What's in your
includes drive
packet
time.
is a yes. Yes.
Okay.
I don't have a support.
Walker.
Oh, you do. Walker supported.
Okay. Ready for a roll call vote?
Sure.
Okay. Walker,
Yes.
Reiber,
Yes.
Hunt,
No.
Deaton, no. Susie,
Yes.
Havarder,
Yes.
Spiker.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, motion carried. Finally, just a discussion item. And this is an update regarding public outreach component of the Township Master Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was happy to include in my memo this, for this item this evening, a link to the Township Master Plan update webpage, which has been prepared and posted by Giffords Webster. After the board approved kind of that baseline proposal to move forward on the master plan, there was some discussion with the Planning Commission and then internally about the fact that the master plan process is really a Planning Commission process. The Planning Commission prepares the plan. It does all of the public comment period for the master plan. And so I felt like perhaps we should reach out to them and look to include them in this proposal just to get their input, since the responsibility really does lie on them to move through this amendment process. So what I'd like to ask the board to do, knowing that we've already approved that baseline and we're able to get started on things, which is evident by this website, would be to send this to the Planning Commission and just ask for them to review the proposal and give the board any comments or feedback in terms of what they may like to see included or what they don't care for. I just think it will make the update process more robust if we include them in the process.
Absolutely. Well, we approved the other the last meeting was simply kicking the ball off, getting everything rolling on the base plan, which is the same no matter what, inputs anyone has, so to speak. But the input and guidance on, how to engage the public and what we're actually looking for from the public does come from the Planning Commission, not from us. And then they deliver the master plan to us for final approval. We've just approved boilerplate verbiage and funding, that's it. They will control the rest of the process. So I agree that we have taken the proper tact here by presenting it that way. And they will give us guidance on how they wish to proceed moving forward.
Sounds good.
Do you want to talk about the town hall?
Yeah, yep. So that's, any further discussion on the master plan? No. So any correspondence?
I do believe there is board correspondence related to the next town hall meeting.
Oh, okay. I was calling that board comments. My bad. So yes, the next, our second town hall meeting will be Wednesday, March 12th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here in the Township Boardroom. And the participants will be myself, Clerk Deaton, and Trustee Reiber. We're going to consult with the Planning Commission to see if they have, to see if 2 or 3 of them or one would like to attend with us. And then also if they have any topics that they would like us to cover. Again, it will be participant driven, so I don't think it'll focus like 100% on the master plan, but I'm guessing the master plan will be top of mind for people. So, we'll let the people decide, but we'll see if the Planning Commission, anybody from there wants to attend.
We will have the big red barrel here.
Yeah, that's good.
They've already confirmed, so everybody can
That's
bring
great.
their
Drugs.
unused pills, including
We'll find a
prescription, over-the-counter, anything that they
We
no
got
longer
pushers.
want.
Sheriff.
Thank you, Clerk Deaton, for setting that up.
Yes, thank you, Janine.
One
Absolutely.
thing I will suggest is what took place at our first one is that someone do act as a moderator for the people that are wanting to talk, so we don't have a lot of feedback. And I took that role the last time, Bill, and I think it'd be a good spot for you is to say you're next, like they did at the, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So where you can put people in order so it stays in order and people know that they're gonna have their voice heard. They don't jumping up and down and trying to talk in between. So, yeah, if you take that role, that'd be great to do that.
Yeah, it went very well last time.
Yeah.
People were polite, handled themselves well. Anybody else have any comments?
No, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
One moment, please.
Yep.
I thought we were still in comments. I thought you meant on the town hall.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah. I want to jump in here because we've started the budget talks. For whatever reason, our township manager is under fire once again. We had Tracy here tonight. I received an email. I know there's comments out on social media complaining about Kelly getting a 5% increase. This board has not seen a recommendation of a 5% increase or approved a 5% increase. That is not true. Staff and the admin committee are currently working through the process, and we do put a lot of time into it. We're looking at possibly an average, and that's an average of 4% across the board. Kelly, the hardest working person in the building, is looking at getting the least amount percentage raise. So I'm not sure where these residents are getting 5%, because that's not true. And I don't think it's fair to Kelly, because this has been happening to her a lot, and she doesn't deserve it. So, if we had to replace Kelly, we would probably pay the same, if not more, for her replacement, and that person would come in without the knowledge and the experience that Kelly has. Not to mention, Kelly lives in this township. I think Kelly's great, and I think it's unfortunate the attacking she keeps getting. So.
And we do need to mention, Milford Township just agreed to go to hire a manager. They hired a professional consultancy that determined 6 townships that are very similar to Milford Township. The 6 they chose were Northville Township, Brighton Township, Genoa, Brownstown Township, Grand Blanc, and Grosse Ile Township. The recommended starting salary, and this is posted, is $117,407 to $150,291, depending on experience. So
starting
Genoa has a slightly larger
Starting point.
population. That's a starting. More employees and higher revenues and expenditures. Plus at Milford, the supervisor, clerk, and treasurer are all full-time positions. So, and I questioned the manager pay as well before I got to the building. I will admit that. After 90 days or so here on the job and witnessing what goes on, this place would have been in rough shape without Kelly's guidance. She definitely, voters flipped 6 of the 7 members on this board. So there's not a ton of institutional knowledge here other than Robin. And even Robin is more on the finance end than the nuts and bolts of government. So that is where Kelly comes in. And that institutional knowledge is very important, especially because we understand it as though we've been charged with maybe guiding future development a little more carefully than it has been, which is a very sticky subject. So we need proper guidance in doing that. I just don't think losing that expertise, I don't know what level of pay people are thinking should be appropriate. The professionals have said that is not out of line. I have to trust their judgment. In my private business, I pay far more than other companies that do what I do. And I feel that my customers will agree that it is worth, you get what you pay for.
From a business standpoint, it takes money to make money.
It takes money to make money. We have a qualified person in place with a lot of experience who actually lives here, which is not a requirement, but just a bonus for us. And so, I've changed my tune. That doesn't mean everybody has to, but it is a shame that somebody who just is working here, not an elected official like us, we deserve all the arrows we get. But I don't feel that staff deserves those arrows.
Agreed.
So that's just my comment.
Thank you.
And
Robin, we had a rough draft of our budget. Do you remember when that was? Because maybe that's what they're looking at.
So I linked, I did a post on Nextdoor that linked to our December 2nd meeting.
Okay, so maybe that's
which is the
where
first.
they're
That is
coming
probably
up
where they got it.
with
Yeah.
the numbers for. And that's what I just want to point out, that I was just trying to look at some old packets and I didn't see
December
anything with
2nd
the budget.
and January.
But I remember us doing one already.
Whatever our first meeting in January was the 2 times at the initial.
We-
But both were the budgets that were presented by the previous board. We hadn't tweaked anything yet.
The unfortunate thing is, we have to, by law, put out that first glance of the budget in December, and that is so far in advance that we just throw numbers. That's not written in stone. That's
Right.
not what we're going with.
But that's what
We
they're
gotta
looking
work
at.
through the process.
And I'm sure that they're looking at, and they know our fiscal year is coming up real quickly, and I'm sure that that's where they're getting their information. I'm not
It is.
100% sure, I can't
No, it
guess,
is.
I
but
just,
I was
now
looking
we've,
back.
now
In the
we've
interest of-
clarified that that's not what it is.
In the interest of transparency, I
Until the
posted
board
it.
votes on it.
Everybody said they wanted a push, so I pushed out the budget. Look at it, give us your comments. In the future, we might appreciate comments. You can attack us again, all you want. We're big boys and girls.
That's what we're
we
here
signed
for.
up for. Not that we want you to, but you're welcome to do it. But I don't think that staff should be attacked.
Agree?
We make the decisions, so we'll deal with those decisions and the fallout that comes with it. So yeah, we're still negotiating and figuring out where those raises and whatnot are gonna come in, what the final number is going to be.
So the budget public hearing will be at our next meeting. That will be published in the newspaper on Wednesday of this week. We are finalizing that draft of the budget, which will be much more specific in terms of what increases are or aren't for each individual line item. and people will have an opportunity to come in and review that. We'll put that budget on our website, and then the official public hearing will be at our next meeting.
Yep.
Just for my own edification, I just want to add my 3 years experience that was cited earlier today. For this board's knowledge, maybe for those in the audience, I've worked for Genoa Township 26 years. I've only been fortunate enough to be in the manager position for 3 years. But prior to that, for 9 years, I was assistant township manager and was essentially performing the majority of the duties of the manager. And then the 14 years prior to that, I was the township planning director. So while it's true that I only have 3 years of experience as the manager, I have many years of experience behind that to bolster that. And I just wanted to add that in, that I'm not somebody who just started working here 3 years ago.
Thank you.
Shouldn't have to, but we appreciate that. And the other thing is, if you go out and talk to other people in Livingston County government that deal with us, I've never heard a terse word said. Most people, almost everybody goes out of their way to compliment the job that Kelly does for us and how much of a pleasure it is to work with her. So she does put a very good foot forward for us as Genoa Township.
Thank you.
And with that, I think Clerk Deaton wants to make a
I just wanted to hand out one quick thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I know it's been a long meeting. I'm going to pass out a project open house for Headland Solar. This is not a project in Genoa Township, but we have a few neighboring communities, Cohocton Township and Conway Township, that are currently getting pressured really significantly for solar. The company that is proposing that solar project is hosting a project open house. I think it's probably geared towards people that live in those communities, but I wanted this board to be aware of it in case you were interested in attending to support Cohocton and Conway Township or just to learn more about it. So I am going to pass that out this evening before you leave.
Perfect. Thank you. And also, I would be remiss, yes, we are announcing a special meeting for February 17th, 2025, which is a Tuesday at 6:30.
February 25th.
Oh, February 25th, what did I say? Oh, yeah.
You said today.
That's the date I wrote them up. Don't mind me. Yeah, so Tuesday, February 25th, at 6:30 PM here at the Township Hall, we'll have a special meeting regarding legal discussion with special counsel on the effect of the PUD. So the majority of that meeting will be a closed session, but the public is welcome to attend.
Until we go into close.
It'll just be an empty room, but it'll be here.
You can attend, but you can't come in.
You're invited, but you can't come in.
Yep.
So I second.
Okay, yes, at that point, Paul Deaton first.
Let me
you
make a
seconded.
motion.
All those in favor say
Motion to
aye.
adjourn.
Second.
Wow.
All right, go
All
ahead.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Aye, aye, aye.
We're out of here.
9 o'clock.
Might even be your longest.
I blame Greg.
Not shortest.
I blame Greg. Greg and his project.
He's thorough.
He is. No, it's a little bit blustery.
It's a lot.
It needs to be done.
Luckily, he only does that once a year.
Tabitha seems to be spending the night in the hospital too.
Oh, no.
What happened? Oh.
Kidney stones.
Yeah, they think it might be something different.
Oh.
Say a little something for Tabitha.
Hi, Bonnie.
Thanks, Melanie. Your hair's cute.
Before you, without telling. I don't know what this township would have